Hello again, and welcome to the fourth lecture in learning Oracle WebLogic 12c Essentials. This lecture we're going to discuss WebLogic concepts. I wanted to spend some time going over some basic WebLogic terminology before we move on to installing WebLogic and creating a domain. So the first piece of terminology I want to go over is one of the most important concepts I think within WebLogic, and that is the WebLogic domain. WebLogic Domain is simply a logically related group of WebLogic servers and resources. A domain always includes an administration server, which serves as a central point from which you can create, manage, and monitor resources and servers within a domain. It can also contain 0 or more managed servers. These managed servers are where you deploy resources to, such as web applications, web services, EJBs, data sources, messaging resources, and so on and so forth. This is where the real bulk of your application lives. Since the WebLogic domain is logical in nature, it can be deployed in a distributed fashion across many servers, or it can be deployed against a single server. So in this diagram, we've got a mix of both. We've got the admin server deployed on a single server, and we have managed servers 1 and 2 deployed on yet another server, and managed server 3 is deployed on another standalone machine. So these WebLogic domains allow you to define a scalable architecture and deploy your resources across multiple servers. And we'll see this when we discuss how we can cloud scale WebLogic using Fusion Middleware Control. And that's a topic for an advanced course later on. So domains can be defined based on a variety of factors, such as by department. One could create a domain for HR, another for finance, and one for IT to house their respective applications and functions. You may also define domains based on geographic region. And you can certainly define domains based off of function. So in some cases, in some environments, you may have requirements to separate your security and identity management functions from the rest of your client's application, and operations may have their own domain for monitoring and administering the rest of the enterprise. So what is a domain? I've gone over how a domain consists of an admin server and a WebLogic server, and it's really logical in nature. Well, what's tangible about this logical WebLogic domain? As I said earlier, in its simplest form, a domain contains one admin server and 0 or more managed servers. I say 0 because it is entirely legal to have a WebLogic domain with just a single admin server, though I would only recommend this for development environments. This is typically what you see when you install WebLogic and create a domain for the first time. A default WebLogic domain contains just an admin server, and that's perfectly normal for development type activities. But in a production system, you would create managed servers and offload your application processing to those managed servers. So what makes up a domain? Well, a WebLogic domain is quite simply a set of XML configuration files that define all the servers, all the resources and services contained within that domain. It also contains security stores, such as embedded LDAP information, key store information for configuring SSL and identity and trust. It also contains log files for applications, services, and the servers themselves. And it may also contain the application files, such as an enterprise archive or a web archive or an EJB, as well as persistent file stores, which are typically used for persisting JMS messages, and the transaction logs themselves if you've got transactions enabled in your environment. So what is a WebLogic server? Well, a WebLogic server really, it's a combination of the domain configuration that I just went over. So it's associated with a set of configuration files that define its parameters, its runtime parameters, and its configuration. That, along with the WebLogic 12c runtime, which is merely a set of Java libraries, all that runs on top of Java, WebLogic is merely a JVM process listening on network ports that you have defined in its configuration. Aside from servers, domains also contain resources and services. Some of these are used by managed servers and some by the application itself. An administrator can define some of these resources and deploy them to WebLogic servers within the domain. For managed servers, you can define such resources as machine definitions, which identify an association between a managed server and a physical or virtual host. Most of the resources you'll define, however, are application specific, such as security providers for authentication and authorization, resource adapters, JDBC data sources, JMS messaging services like a JMS destination or a foreign JMS provider. If what I just said was foreign to you, don't worry, we're going to cover these advanced topics in greater detail in later courses. For now, just know that an application is supported by many resources and services maintained by WebLogic. So the rest of this course will walk you through creating a WebLogic domain, a resource, and have you deploy an application. Up next, section 3 on running with WebLogic. Finally, we get to have some fun and install and configure WebLogic. Good luck. Thank you.